Welcome to another edition of Going In It Alone Reviews. Today we're going retro, as we already did a anime movie, and whatever people gave me the 4 dislikes for Your Name, awesome, love it. Today we're going to America now, and we're going to be doing a Disney flick. We're going to be going to 1986, the dark ages of Disney, where their cartoon movies were bombing like heck. This one actually made a decent amount of money, but it isn't great. We're going to see The Great Mouse Detective. The Great Mouse Detective is a story about Basil of Baker Street and his obsession with being Sherlock Holmes. He actually lives in the same house as Sherlock Holmes, so there you go, he's got that going for him. This is a story about a little girl named Olivia and her dad by the name of Faversham. And if I get it wrong, it's fine. Actually, it's a running joke in the movie that everyone gets it wrong. So, I'm not alone in none, but mine's isn't a joke. Her dad gets captured, and she has to find Basil of Baker Street. Along the way, she runs into Dr. Dawson, who is just new to England, and he's actually looking for a home. So he decides to help the little girl to find Basil. So they go there, they tell her story. After finding out that Basil is quite the egotistical one, they finally get to the position of who stole her dad, and that's actually finally when he gets interested. Like, at first he doesn't care about this case. This is the type of character Basil is. He's a very full of himself, stuck-up person. So there we go. But he's also kind of enigmatic, and he is also very, very ingenious. So he never gets borderline annoying, and he never gets unlikable in all his egotism. So I'll give him credit for that. So they go off, and they eventually find out that the person who kidnapped the dad is none other than the evil Professor Ratigan, who captured Olivia's father for the purpose of making a robot copy of the princess so that he can be in charge of the kingdom. And the movie just goes from there. The characters in this movie are really well, and they're kind of people you know from different places, because obviously this is a straight copy of Sherlock Holmes. So Sherlock Holmes, Basil, Dr. Dawson, he's Watson, Professor Ratigan is the main bad guy from Sherlock Holmes. So it kind of plays off that beat, except they're all mice now. And actually, Basil, like I said, he's an inventor. His inventions in the movie are pretty crappy, though, not gonna lie. He's kind of egotistical, but not borderline unlikable. He still has a certain amount of charm to him. Then there's his cohort, Dr. Dawson, who has a kind of pretty interesting life. I believe he had just come off a military tour, so that he has that going for him. He's actually not his sidekick in this movie. He just happens to get dragged along for the ride. And then there's Olivia, played by what sounds like a little girl who, in that time period, is actually not a bad voice actor. She never got cringeworthy. You know, her character, of course, she gets captured like every girl in this time period. But she never gets unlikable, and they know when to push her out of the way of the story, to just let it be Basil and Dawson trying to figure out the mystery. Her dad, Mr. Faversham, is actually voiced by the same voice actor who did Scrooge McDuck in the 1990s show DuckTales. So every time he talked, I got a good laugh at him. and I actually was waiting for him to jump into a pile of gold. Then let's go to the main villain, which Disney used to do really well before, and they kind of gotten away with that just to do more emphasis on the good guys now. The main bad guy is Professor Ratigan, voiced none other than by the late Vincent Price. He absolutely owns this role and makes this movie. He is so fun to listen to. His voice coming out of that rat is kind of amazing, and every time he talks you can just tell this guy's loving what he's doing. One of the side plots in this movie is the fact that he doesn't want to be acknowledged as a rat. He wants to be acknowledged as a mouse, because I guess rats come off as dirty creatures, and he's this character who always has very dapper clothing, always well dressed, comes off just like that. And so the fact that when someone calls him a rat he gets angry is kind of an interesting thing, and it has a purpose for it later on in the movie. This movie came out in 1986, so you also have to remember one thing about it. This is a rated G movie. If this movie was to come out today, this would be a hard PG-13, because you have rats smoking cigarettes, you have rats drinking alcohol, you have, I should say mice, you have mice strippers. You don't see anything, thank God, so all you Furbies can calm down some. But they have like a Moulin Rouge scene where there's this old school girl taking off like her dress and revealing a bathing suit. It's along those lines. The last fight scene in the clock tower definitely would not get a G rating in this time, because we live in the punk ass periods. But this is the kind of stuff that was rated G back in the 80s. So just remember that if you're going to show this to anyone who grew up in the late 90s and onward. So, so parents out there, viewer discretion is advised. The final fight scene in the clock tower is really well done. It's actually one of the first 3D scenes that Disney has used where they mashed up hand-drawn animation and 3D, and it actually looks pretty good. They keep it simple, where it's just kind of the gears in the clock tower and some parts of the clock tower, but it actually meshes really well, and most people in this day and age won't notice it, which is kind of amazing. Everything else about the movie, it's kind of standard by the numbers, but it's a lot of fun. There's a couple of musical scenes really good. The first one with Professor Ratigan, anything by Vincent Price is awesome, so that's something to watch out for. The fight scene is kind of brutal, like I said, at the end, so once again, if you have small kids and they're not used to seeing that type of violence, be careful with that. As far as the whole overall movie, while it was fun, there was nothing stand out about it. It's not a game breaker. It's not terrible. It's above average just because of the voice acting, in all honesty. So for The Great Mouse Detective, I'll give it a 7.5. It's not average. It's a little bit above it, but nothing makes it great. Other than Vincent Price's voice acting, which is a lot of fun. That's about it for that. So if you haven't seen this movie before, and it happens to be on Disney Channel, or you happen to see it cheap, go out of your way. I think I got it on Amazon for $8 on Blu-ray, so you can have that for you. I'll probably watch this later on with Jeff, just because it's a movie he hasn't seen, and it'll be fun. So that's about it. Oh, I will say this. Best line in the movie. This is my quote for the movie. There's a scene where Professor Ratigan, of course, Vincent Price has the best line in the movie, where he's walking out of the saloon, and I'm going to end this with this quote. "Oh, I love it when I'm nasty." Soak that in. Goodbye, see you next time.